Have you ever wondered why so many older adults find themselves awake around 3 a.m., lying in the dark staring at the ceiling and quietly asking themselves what's wrong with their body or mind? If this has happened to you, you're far from alone, and the important truth is that it's not simply a bad habit, nor is it a sign that your body is failing. In fact, waking up in the early hours is far more common than most people realize, and it's usually explained by natural changes that come with age rather than personal shortcomings. In this discussion we'll explore 5 of the clearest reasons people tend to wake around 3 a.m. as they get older, and why those early morning wake-ups may actually be your body trying to send you a message. These reasons are rooted not in random chance, but in real biology, shifts in hormones, natural adjustments to sleep patterns, underlying health factors, changes in daily routines, and even the emotional and psychological layers of life experience. By the time you've read through these explanations, you may see your sleep in a new, kinder light and discover small, simple changes that can ease frustration, improve your nights, and help you care for yourself more wisely. The first reason is reduced melatonin production, which is one of the clearest explanations for why older adults tend to wake up more often during the night. Melatonin is the hormone your body produces to regulate the sleep-wake cycle, sometimes called the body's internal clock, and its main role is to help you not only fall asleep but stay asleep throughout the night. When you were younger, your body naturally made a strong and steady supply of melatonin each evening, which is why you may remember falling into long stretches of deep, uninterrupted sleep without much difficulty. But as the years pass, melatonin production begins to decline, and the amount produced at night becomes lower and less consistent. This gradual reduction doesn't mean you're unhealthy or doing something wrong, it simply reflects a natural part of the aging process. What it does mean, however, is that while you might still fall asleep easily at the beginning of the night, especially if you've had a full day or a relaxing evening, by the time the early morning hours roll around, anywhere between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., your supply of melatonin may have dipped too low to keep you firmly in the restful state of sleep. At that point, your brain begins shifting back toward wakefulness, and before you know it, you're wide awake, even though you didn't consciously choose to be. This kind of wake-up isn't caused by noise, dreams, or worry, but by a simple chemical change inside your body. On top of that, your bedroom environment can make a big difference. Even small amounts of light that you might have ignored in your younger years, like a street lamp glow filtering through the curtains, the blinking numbers of a digital clock, or a hallway light slipping in under the door, can interfere with melatonin production, suppressing it even further. Older adults also tend to become more sensitive to these environmental triggers, which can make those 3 a.m. wake-ups feel even more frustrating. A good example of this is Harold, who at 72 had always considered himself a solid sleeper. Recently, though, he noticed that he was waking up most nights around 3:15 a.m. and couldn't understand why. At first he blamed himself, thinking perhaps he was too restless or not disciplined enough with his sleep, but after learning about melatonin decline, he realized it was simply a natural shift in his body's chemistry. That awareness alone lifted some of the guilt. Harold then began making small, practical adjustments. He darkened his bedroom with thicker curtains, avoided screens for an hour before bedtime, and added a short evening walk to reinforce his circadian rhythm. These small steps didn't eliminate his early wake-ups completely, but they did make the nights less frustrating and helped him feel more in control. The key lesson here is that awareness can turn blame into gentle action. Instead of resenting your body, you can begin to support it with little choices that make rest easier. The second reason so many older adults wake up in the night, often around 3 a.m., is something called advanced sleep phase, which is basically a shift in your internal body clock. As we age, our circadian rhythm, the natural 24-hour cycle that tells us when to feel sleepy and when to be alert, starts to move forward, and this can create a new pattern where you feel sleepy earlier in the evening and naturally wake earlier in the morning. You may have noticed yourself nodding off during a late-night movie or waking without an alarm at dawn, even on days when you'd prefer to stay in bed. This shift is not simply a habit or a quirk of personality, it's deeply biological, and for many people, it grows more pronounced with each passing year. In your younger years, your circadian rhythm was often aligned with a later bedtime and a wake-up time that matched the sun rising, but as the rhythm advances, your natural sleep window moves earlier. This means that you may now find yourself falling asleep around 9 p.m. or even earlier, sometimes without intending to, which leads to a situation where your body has already gotten its full cycle of rest by the time 3 a.m. comes around. When that happens, waking up at 3 a.m. doesn't mean your sleep is broken, it simply means your body thinks it has completed the night's rest. This is important because it shifts the perspective. You're not failing at sleep, you're simply operating on a different internal schedule. Think of it like a household clock that's been gently ticking forward over the years, running a little earlier than it used to. While advanced sleep phase isn't harmful, it can definitely feel frustrating if your lifestyle, family routine, or preferences don't match this earlier rhythm. Quieter environments also amplify this shift. Many older adults live in calmer households, spend more time alone, or face fewer stimulating activities in the evening. Without the noise and energy that might have once delayed bedtime, the body's natural signals to wind down take over much sooner. Retirement can also strengthen this pattern, since external cues like commuting, meetings, or social events no longer keep the rhythm stretched later. Charles, age 68, found himself experiencing exactly this. After retiring, he started eating dinner around 5:30, watching some television, and often falling asleep by 9 p.m. without meaning to. By 3 a.m., his body felt fully rested, and he was wide awake in the dark, wondering why his sleep seemed broken. Once he learned about advanced sleep phase, he realized nothing was wrong. His sleep was simply rescheduled. Charles then started gently nudging his bedtime later. He added small cues like brighter evening light, a short walk after dinner, and an occasional phone call with his daughter before bed. These tiny shifts gave his body new signals, stretching his sleep window just enough that his wake-up time moved closer to morning. The result wasn't perfect, but it helped him feel more aligned with his daily life. For anyone experiencing something similar, the takeaway is that if waking up at 3 a.m. feels like you've already slept enough, your body clock may simply be running a little earlier than it once did. Small adjustments to routine can help shift it back, or you can choose to work with the rhythm, using those early hours for quiet reflection or light activities. In both cases, understanding the why removes guilt and helps you respond with more compassion and less frustration. Reason 3: Physical discomfort and health-related interruptions. Another powerful reason many older adults find themselves waking around 3 a.m. comes not from the mind, but from the body quietly signaling discomforts or changes in health that become more noticeable at night. During the day, movement, conversation, and activity often mask aches and pains, but after hours of lying still, those signals grow louder. Arthritis is one of the most common examples. Joints that feel reasonably fine during the day can stiffen and ache after staying in one position too long, nudging a person awake in the early hours. Acid reflux is another culprit too. While a late dinner may feel harmless at the time, reflux often flares up hours later when the body is horizontal, leading to sudden burning discomfort right around that 2 to 4 a.m. window. The bladder also changes with age, becoming less elastic and more easily triggered, meaning even small amounts of fluid can create the urgent need for a bathroom trip at night. Cramps, restless legs, or even subtle shifts in body temperature can all add to the list of sleep interrupters. Medications also play a large role, since many drugs used for chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or pain management can affect hydration levels, body temperature, or bathroom frequency. Sometimes these effects appear small in the daytime but reveal themselves in the stillness of the night. For example, Eleanor, 76, noticed that her almost nightly awakenings often coincided with bathroom urges. After talking with her doctor, she adjusted the timing of her blood pressure medication and found her trips to the bathroom were fewer, allowing her to return to sleep more easily. The key lesson is that these 3 a.m. wake-ups are often not random or mysterious, they are practical signals from the body that something can be adjusted. Simple changes, such as improving pillow support for joints, elevating the head slightly to reduce reflux, practicing gentle stretches before bed, or speaking with a doctor about shifting the timing of a medication, can make a dramatic difference. It helps to view these wake-ups not as failures of sleep, but as opportunities to listen to what the body is asking for and respond with care. Even something as small as keeping a glass of water nearby to address dryness or adjusting bedroom temperature can reduce disturbances. While we can't eliminate every discomfort that comes with aging, many of the nighttime interruptions have manageable solutions. What matters most is recognizing the signals instead of blaming yourself, because often, the body is simply asking for a little more support in order to rest. Reason 4. Lifestyle habits that shift your sleep rhythm. Beyond biology and health conditions, daily routines and habits quietly shape when you feel sleepy and when you wake up, often without you realizing it. Over the years, patterns such as eating dinner earlier, reducing physical activity, or taking frequent evening naps can gradually pull the body's internal clock forward. If you regularly find yourself winding down by 7 or 8 p.m., melatonin, the hormone that prepares you for sleep, may start rising earlier in the evening, which naturally leads to falling asleep earlier. The problem is that an earlier bedtime almost always means an earlier wake-up time, often right around 3 a.m. For many retirees, life becomes quieter and less structured, with fewer fixed external time cues like commuting, meetings, or busy evening schedules. This slower pace can magnify the body's natural tendency toward advanced sleep phase, where the circadian rhythm shifts forward. Eating patterns also play a role. A very early and light dinner, while comfortable, can sometimes lead to a dip in blood sugar during the night, and that drop can be enough to wake you suddenly in the early morning hours. On the other hand, caffeine, which the body metabolizes quickly in youth, can linger much longer with age. A cup of coffee or tea in the late afternoon may still be stimulating the nervous system well past midnight. Even alcohol, though it may feel relaxing at first, disrupts deep sleep later in the night, leaving a person wide awake far earlier than intended. Walter, 74, found himself struggling with these exact issues. Over time, his evenings grew quieter, his dinners earlier, and his naps longer, and before he knew it, he was falling asleep at 8:30 and waking fully alert by 3 a.m. At first, he thought this meant something was wrong, but with some small and consistent changes, his pattern improved. He added a short but brisk walk after dinner, avoided late naps, and began reading in brighter light during the evening, which helped signal his body to stay awake longer. Slowly, his bedtime shifted later, and those frustrating pre-dawn awakenings became less frequent. The powerful lesson here is that the body's rhythm is highly responsive to light, movement, and meal timing. By being intentional with these daily habits, ensuring some exposure to natural or bright light in the evening, staying physically active throughout the day, eating meals at steady times, and being cautious with caffeine, many older adults can gently guide their sleep schedule to a rhythm that feels more satisfying. It's important to remember that these changes don't happen overnight. Just as it took months or years for habits to shift earlier, it can take time and consistency to gradually move the clock back. But with patience and awareness, lifestyle habits can become tools to reshape sleep rather than hidden obstacles. Reason 5. Emotional and psychological restlessness. Not every 3 a.m. awakening is driven by the body. Sometimes it comes from the quieter world of the heart and mind. In those still hours of the night, when the house is silent and the distractions of the day are gone, memories, emotions, and lingering thoughts often rise to the surface. For many older adults, this isn't a frantic or panic type of insomnia but a softer, reflective restlessness, a time when the mind replays conversations, revisits past relationships, lingers on regrets, or turns over unanswered questions about life. The brain, no longer pulled in many directions, finally has space to process feelings that were pushed aside during the day. This can be especially true for those living alone, where the absence of companionship makes the night feel heavier and longer. Loneliness itself is a powerful factor. As social circles shrink with age, the night can amplify that sense of isolation, and a wake-up at 3 a.m. can feel emotionally larger than it is physically. Gloria, 80 and widowed, experienced this deeply after her husband passed away. She often woke around 3:15, her heart filled with a mix of longing and memories, unable to quiet her mind. Eventually, she found comfort in a simple practice, keeping a notebook beside her bed to jot down thoughts or memories that surfaced. By writing them out, she created a sense of release, allowing her to return to rest instead of carrying those emotions through the night. Others find small rituals helpful, playing soft instrumental music, practicing gentle breathing or meditation, reading a few calming pages, or even whispering a prayer of gratitude. These are not cures but compassionate ways to soothe the mind when it becomes restless. Some people also discover that connecting with loved ones earlier in the evening, whether through a short phone call, a cup of tea with a neighbor, or even an online chat with family, reduces the emotional weight that surfaces later. Building in those small acts of connection and meaning during the day can create a buffer that makes the night feel less overwhelming. It's important to recognize that this kind of wakefulness is not a weakness or failure, it is a human response to the quieter spaces of life, and by treating it with gentleness rather than frustration, it often becomes easier to manage. When you step back, waking at 3 a.m. is not a single mystery but rather a mix of many factors working together: biological, physical, habitual, and emotional. It is not proof that your sleep is broken or that your body is failing you. Instead, it is a signal, sometimes subtle and sometimes loud, that your system is shifting with age and inviting you to adjust with care. Melatonin levels naturally decline, making it harder to stay asleep through the night, but this can often be supported with a darker, quieter room and healthy evening routines. The body's internal clock can shift forward, leading to earlier sleep and earlier wake times, but gentle changes in light exposure, activity, and social routines can stretch that schedule later if you wish. Physical discomforts, from arthritis to reflux to nighttime bathroom trips, may interrupt sleep, but often these can be reduced with simple adjustments in medication timing, positioning, or diet. Daily lifestyle habits, such as meal timing, naps, caffeine, and evening light exposure, can quietly shape when your body wants to rest and wake, meaning small tweaks here can have a big impact. And finally, the heart and mind have their role. Unresolved feelings, loneliness, or reflective restlessness often surface in the quietest hours, and creating small rituals or outlets for those emotions can bring peace. What matters most is approaching these awakenings with understanding rather than frustration. Nights do not have to be a battle, they can become gentler with small, consistent actions. None of these changes will bring instant fixes, but they are compassionate adjustments you can experiment with, and over time, they often make sleep more steady and less stressful. If any of these reasons spoke to you, take a moment to reflect on which one feels most familiar in your own life, and share it in the comments below. Sometimes just voicing what you're experiencing helps others feel less alone. And if you found these insights useful, I invite you to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, where we explore practical, respectful, and thoughtful advice for life's later chapters. Thank you for being here and for giving yourself the gift of understanding your body and mind a little better. May your nights grow kinder, your mornings gentler, and your days filled with the energy and peace that restorative rest can bring.